So today I wanted to talk about one of my theories on why in the 3D realm, our current kind of dimension, why we only have the present. Because I've always wondered, why can't we live in the future? Why can't we live in the past and be sort of happy or be content? Why is it that the only condition within the third dimension is that we must be present? Otherwise, here in this little chart I made, you can see that the future, we know that future is anxiety focused and past is depression focused. So why is it that our current realities doesn't allow us to live in this sort of spectrum, but rather it only lets us live in the present? So here I lay it out. Why is living in the present so emphasized? Why can't we live in the future or the past and be happy? So to understand this, the 3D realm is consistent of the length, width, and depth. That's what makes a 3D reality, and that's what allows us to live in a 3D space. Whereas a 4D space is length, width, depth, and time and space. So the inclusion of time and space makes this a little different. So if we were looked at a fourth dimension reality, we have past, present, future, and the time that spans across it. So it's my belief that living in the past, present, and future, while also maintaining contentment, happiness, and not exactly this anxiety, depression, or grief, is possible in the fourth dimension because we have time which will allow us to go back and forth between time zones. An example of this is near-death experiences are an example of a fourth dimension experience. So near-death experiences is when a person dies briefly, momentarily. They assumingly go to the fourth dimension. They see a bunch of lights. They see what ancestors, maybe they see the future, they see God, whatever they might see. But most importantly, they are able to traverse these dimensions. And this is because time is a condition of the fourth dimension. And without time, as you can see in the third dimension, we don't have the ability to traverse to the future or the past. We only have the present. So the third dimension does not support being in the past or future because it doesn't have the condition of time. You can think about it in certain experiences. For example, let's say you have a trip coming up. You really want to go to, let's say, Rome since you were young, and the trip is coming in 3 months. So this is going to be in the future, right? 3 months. And some people might argue that, I'll keep kind of like fantasizing about this and I'm kind of living in the future because this trip is going to be so fun and it's going to fulfill the things I wanted in life. But I would actually argue that this future condition of Rome is actually you desiring to be in the present again. So though it is over on this side, it's actually calling you back to be in the present. Because once you let's say 3 months elapses, once you finally get to Rome, you can finally start living in the present. And this will give you the most joy, happiness, whatever. But this is all to come back to the present. And similarly with the past, you can think of like a really good past memory. Maybe there's a childhood memory you really loved or a childhood moment you really loved, and you kind of like fawn over it, you kind of daydream about it, like I wish my life was as good as it was before. Let's say someone who peaked in high school. So they'll always fantasize about this past where they peaked in high school, but what they really want to do is live in the present again. Can I get all the feelings I did when I was this, I guess, valedictorian in high school, and I want that to occur in the present again. So these ideas or fantasies all kind of lead to a desire to be in the present again. So a quick recap is that because time is only a fourth dimension property, we in the third dimension do not have the experience of time to be able to be in the past or the future. So thus, there are certain conditions that come with trying to stay in the past or future, where the lesson for many of us is to stay in the present and be in the present. That got me thinking, like, why exactly would a universe be constructed in this way so that we can't live in the future or the past? Say, if God's real or whoever oriented this universe, why exactly can't I, just enjoy being in the past, being in the future, and just, being happy there? Like, allowing the human experience to just be happy in a state that's not the present. My theory is we must master the present in the third dimension. So as we go up dimensions in this universe, I have the idea that you have to master your current dimension to go to the next dimension. So if we're in the 3D space, going to the 4D space, we need to master the present. And how do we do that? Is to understand that we only have the present. Because when we cling onto a past memory, the high school days, when we cling onto the future, let's say a job, or when you finally make enough money, or when you finally get your dream relationship, then we will be satisfied. But that's really not the case in how, I guess, this system or this world operates. When you start clinging into the future or clinging onto the past and you quite can't let go of it, you don't live in the present, you don't, as they say, smell the flowers. You kind of miss on what life has to offer you. And by clinging to things that aren't in the present, we automatically suffer. So, let's go right here. We're going to suffer very greatly when we are not in alignment with how the universe works. So clinging in a sense, clinging is in the extreme sense. And when we cling in the extreme sense, we tend to suffer. So an example of suffering would be, let's go back to the Rome travel 3-month idea. Let's say you really want to go to Rome and you have to have this happen. You're clinging to this idea and you're really looking forward to it, but often life doesn't really lay out as you plan it to. And so maybe, let's say the rain comes and then flights are canceled and then you'll have to rebook everything. And then because you are living in the future and that future did not happen, which will not bring you to the present, then you will suffer because, I didn't get to go on my trip. I was looking so much forward to this. And that's because you were in the future and the future never delivered. So you were never able to go to the present. And so as we cling on to whatever future ideals or future outcomes we want, we tend to suffer. And the suffer is sort of like proportional. If I put like suffer down here and then cling, the more we cling often is the more we suffer. Because the more we need a certain outcome to happen and then that outcome doesn't happen, the more we're gonna basically suffer. So you'll hear some people say, I just try to have no expectations in avoidance to get hurt. And that's a way. That's that's not relying on a particular outcome, and thus that person doesn't suffer. And I have my own gripes with that saying, but that's basically the idea or principle. Okay, so why is it that the world is created so that there's suffering when we try to go into the future or the past? And it's to get us ready to become more of a fourth dimension experience. So here I put third dimension early. A lot of us recognize that there's these time periods going on, past, present, future. But as we go to the late stages of the third dimension, we know that there's only the present. And when there's only the present, you can see up here these ideas of time, they kind of no longer exist, because if there's just a present, there's no time. And when there's no time, you are meeting the qualifications of the third dimension. So this will lead you to a fourth dimension experience, or I don't know exactly how someone's gonna, I don't know, get enlightenment to a fourth dimension. But now you are allowed to experience time in the fourth dimension. Because here, when we let go of the past and future, there's no other place to be than the present. This will lead to a responsible fourth dimensional experience where we don't abuse the condition of time. So many of us in third dimension, if we had access to time, I think a lot of us would just go in the past and buy Bitcoin for like 1 cent and then just sell out like the top. And frankly, that's irresponsible, because that'll change a lot of what will happen in the present and the future. And so once we have no clinging to the future or past, once we enter the fourth dimension, we'll be in the present. We won't have any desire to alter the past or alter the future, because we've already mastered time. We are in the present. So when I say this will lead to a responsible fourth dimensional experience, it's because we now kind of gain the, I'm going to say, maturity to not temper with the past or the future. But we're going to let it play out, we're going to let it be, and then you can do all this NDE stuff where you'll meet your ancestors and whatnot and find the truth in life or whatever. But basically, this is how I imagine the progression of sort of consciousness goes into, and why our world is oriented in this way. So anyway, this is more of a fun idea. I think if I was more like adept at math, or if I knew more, I'm going to say laws of the universe, like, motions of physics or gravitational constant, stuff like that, then I could explain this better, or maybe this idea just falls apart. But currently, this is my idea on why the third dimension is the way it is.